You're listening to the I Love You Keep Going podcast with George Haas. For more information, please visit our website at www.mettagroup.org. That's www.mettagroup.org.
So, welcome everybody. This is I Love You Keep Going. It's Thursday, May 15th, 2025 at 7:35 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We always get a lot of questions about the glow, as I like to call it, which is really coming from a book. I guess it's 30 years old at this point. A general theory of love, which talks about the neurobiology of attachment and who it is that glows for us. You walk into a room and somebody lights up like a Christmas tree. And you think, oh, they're very interesting. They're very attractive. But what we're actually recognizing in that is the pattern of care that we received when we were kids, because all of our definitions of what love is are based on that. And evolutionarily, of course, if you had great care when you were a kid, it's a great shorthand. And if you didn't have great care when you were a kid, it's less useful. Dan Brown used to tell me that you can retrain the glow. And so people that are actually good for you are the ones that glow. But I haven't experienced that actually in anyone. So maybe it's the holy grail of all of this work that you can re-engineer the glow. And so when you walk into the room, the people that would really be great for you to be in relationships are the ones who look like Christmas trees, all alight. What I thought was great about the discussion of that in this particular book was that it's biological. The eyes dilate when you land on them. And so it lets more light in, so they look very shiny, but it also diminishes the impact of everything around them. It kind of gets washed out. So what does love mean? There isn't really that universal. There's a comment, the glow shows our unmet needs. Or I think one of the ways that you might talk about attachment conditioning is that it sets us up to be able to function in the family system that we're in. We learn the ropes of the particular family system and we develop the skills that we need to operate within the family system. And this all works really well while you're in the family system. But as soon as you come out of the family system and you attempt to navigate somebody else's family system, then you have often a series of conflicts that arise in the way that you relate. And so one of the things about conflict is that it's not really the conflicts that unsettle relationships, it's the loss of hope that you can navigate the conflicts and come to a reasonable agreement with the person. We learn how to navigate conflict, of course, by watching how the adult caregivers in our family systems negotiate conflict, and also in how they coach us to resolve conflict in our family group, and also when we move out of the family group into socializing, which happens when we go either into daycare or into school. When you showed up on the playground, in this country anyway, it's around 5 for kindergarten, you already had an intact attachment system functioning. You already had a conflict resolution system functioning. How did it go with your peers who also all had all of that? Were you able to find a way to negotiate conflict in such a way that you could settle into a relationship, or was the process of negotiating conflict erupting over and over again around the same issues because you couldn't really negotiate a good way to settle them? That's what tends to be the relationship killer, when you lose hope that you're going to be able to resolve the conflicts in the relationship. Secure people tend to have this idea that we're creative, we can collaborate, we can find a solution to the difficulties in the relationship, we can work out an agreement that's going to be a solid win-win for both people, and that the issue is going to settle because we're both willing to keep the conflict agreements because we value the relationship. And in other kinds of attachment conditioning, that doesn't really happen. Dismissing people, for instance, don't really negotiate conflict. They give you the terms and you accept them, or you don't accept them. As long as you accept them, there's harmony in the relationship, and as soon as you want to negotiate something else, the relationship has trouble and even disappears. And usually that's the dismissing person receives care, and usually it's a preoccupied person, or most commonly, the preoccupied person provides the care. And if you have I like to call them smart, dismissing person, they provide just enough care to keep their preoccupied person going, because if they don't even provide that, the preoccupied person burns out and then they have to find somebody else. So you have that. Sometimes those relationships are stable and long-lasting, but it's that single direction of care. Disorganized people, of course, end up mostly alone. They can't show up reliably to provide the care, so that their caregivers are not well cared for. And they tend to socially isolate to regulate their emotions, and so they disappear from relationships over and over again. They're too unreliable to be counted on in organized attachment relationships. Still, the people that are going to glow for us are the people that we recognize the pattern of the care that we're likely to receive from them. How is this possible? Because it isn't the self that it's doing it, it's the whole body-mind system that's doing it, taking in the data, analyzing it, recognizing the patterns, and then presenting the glow to the sense of self that we have. Mudit.
Oh, it's interesting that you just separated the self from the body mind.
Say that again, I had trouble hearing.
Oh, that you made a separation between the self and the body mind.
The self-experience, yeah. I like to call the self-experience the audience. And the whole body-mind process is the show. That duality.
The capital S.
Yeah. We often, when we identify strongly with the self, it creates that dual experience, right? This is the self over here, that's the world over there. I'm in charge of everything. I make all of the decisions. I think through everything. And that self-experience doesn't actually do any of that. And it isn't dual. It's all the same experience. I might be coming down with a cold. My voice is difficult. From that perspective of non-dual, that perspective of awakened awareness, that perspective of everything being a reflection of mind, the way in which we define meaning and make the world has a lot to do with the way that we experience it. If you really understand that your conditioning sets you up to create or to define the meaning of things, but that you're not attached to that process particularly, the meanings are very changeable, very flexible in terms of what your understanding is. That process of this is the sensing material, that I've taken in. This is the meaning that I've assigned it. And that constant reflection back to the experience of the raw data. Is this a good representation of this material that I've taken in, or have I in some way distorted my perception of it? There's an automaticity to it. It just runs. You don't actually have to do anything. It just runs, right? Even though we have the sense when we identify with that limited self that it's in charge and it's doing all of this. Even if one of those early insights on the Theravada path is to step back and not have the self do anything and watch all of those processes just continue without the self, without that input. Where is the self? Where is it located? It's not locatable. Can you tell the difference between the sensing experience and the tableau of meaning that you create? Can you sit in awareness, in the vast awareness, and just watch all of this stuff happening without actually intending to do anything? It just unfolds in this process. So then why do we walk into the room and the sociopaths glow? It seems so impractical. If you were me. Or who glows when you walk into the room, right? Since my conditioning is different than yours. And what do you do about that? In my case, I don't engage them because I've learned, it was quite a long time since I ran into one. But I did run into one about 6 months ago, and boy, bam, they were just glowing. It was astonishing how intense the feeling was.
Is it not beauty, like, always the reason, or is it just me?
What is beautiful to you? And do you think that there's a universal quality to it, or is it just your conditioned understanding of beauty?
I mean, let's say if you take 1,000 men,
Yes.
you do realize that you will find a majority, I want to say 80%, where they would all agree
On
on
who,
one.
on who's beautiful and who isn't. I'm going to bet it's pretty culturally dependent. I tell you what, I was going to make a book of photographs, and I wanted to see if there were particular photographs in the book that everybody thought were great. So I got 6 photo professionals together, and I gave them a stack of 825 photos and had them go through yes, no. So 6 people, each going through 825 photos, going 2 piles, yes, no. And at the end of that, 6 images were picked by all 6 people out of 825, which I thought was quite astonishing. So I'm going to guess that your numbers are lower than your current frame. Now, of course, we're conditioned to what is beautiful, right? And it's an endless stream of attention to what is beautiful, what is desirable. And so where is in that the sense that you have a culturally valuable token more than what is intrinsically of interest to you? Or we take 1,000 women, do they then all pick a small group of men that they think are beautiful? Or all men picking or all women picking each other. What's beautiful. Um, Trying to remember her. Is it Mary Tanham? Anyway, she wrote a book called You Don't Understand, which was about the conditioning of men and women. And what I found quite interesting about that is that men are trained to ignore contradiction and women are trained to seek consensus. And so the things that are valuable and meaningful to women as a culture because of the way that they're instructed, what's valuable is a completely different set of choices. You're not old enough, but I am, to have lived in a period where there wasn't really this intense interest in male beauty in the same way that there was this intense interest in female beauty. It's something that happened toward the end of the 60s and into the 70s. All of a sudden, that focus on male beauty and was developed culturally, which has created a whole transformating world of men working out and products. And in the early 80s, it was hard to get, something to make your hair stand up besides pomade, which was essentially Vaseline, right? So the world is quite different and changes in these cycles. Fitness, not so much fitness because so you're fit, but fitness so you look good. But it's a particular thing. In men, of course, it's the mesomorphic physique that is the one that's so valued. So the narrow hips, broad back, moderately heavy musculature, and really thin skin, so you can get ripped, which is not true of the endomorphic people that have heavy musculature and fatty skin, or ectomorphic people who are brainy but low musculature, fatty skin, so that you never can get ripped. Jess?
I was just gonna say about the people being beautiful or attractive versus that glow of people where you're just like,
Right.
I can't help but want to, and I started 5 years ago. I started seeing when I would see men on the street that I was like, oh, I'm so interested. I was immediately like, fucking no, that's gonna be terrible. No, I was immediately like, that's not gonna go well. It. But I noticed, but as a bi woman, I also noticed that I mostly have the glow with men, whereas women, I am just attracted to. I just find them beautiful, or I find them attractive or appealing, but the glow isn't really there.
Right.
Maybe one out of 20 women that I find attractive, but with men, it's more common for some reason, that sort of attachment blends.
Which would be more if you grew up in a conventional hetero home. That would, to your point, it's probably indicating something other than just pure attractiveness.
Yeah.
That whole apparatus of care. So really the idea is when your glow situation is attracting you to the people that you can't make relationships work with, you flip it, and it becomes the warning sign that that's not the person to pursue. Then I like to say, you go from automatic to manual. But with slow dating, I think you can resolve a lot of these difficulties. We don't do so much in the way of arranged marriage in the West, but it's still very popular in the world. And what that creates is a much more role-based relationship. And I often talk about intimate relationships rather than role-based relationships. So that's that secure dynamic versus the insecure, disorganized dynamic. In order to form an intimate, collaborative partnership with somebody, you have to know them pretty well. And it's hard to get to know someone pretty fast. And so in that, you don't have to do the deep work to uproot your native attachment system in order to come into an understanding of what a secure functioning relationship would be. You can understand the dynamics of a secure functioning relationship and organize a secure functioning relationship, even with an insecure, disorganized attachment strategy. A little harder for disorganized people because the reliability piece is such a challenge for them. Can you make an agreement with somebody and keep it? That's the basis of a secure functioning relationship. Can you make an agreement that works for you authentically and not feel coerced or pressured into accepting terms that you can't live with? In a collaborative negotiation, you would not sensibly accept a capitulation from your partner because in the end they won't be able to do it for very long. It will irk them and they will abandon it, and then you'll have the problem to renegotiate, except it will have a history to it, a negative history to it. And the more times you have to do it, the greater the hopelessness is that you won't be able to resolve the conflict. And it's that hopelessness that you really have to pay attention to, because that's the thing that sinks relationships. You give up hope that you're going to be able to resolve the conflicts. Whereas if your epistemic trust is intact and you have the sense that no matter what the problem is that we face, the two of us can come together and collaborate on a solution that will work for both of us, then you create a very resilient relationship. But you have to know somebody and know what their capacities are for that before you can commit to them too quickly. Insecure and disorganized people tend to rush into relationships and overcommit, not because they know the person and they've succeeded in negotiating a secure solution to the difficulties that come with each person's conditioning, but because it relieves the abandonment terror. When you begin to get excited about somebody and you begin to have a sense that they see you and can be good for you, often it aggravates the sense that they could also abandon you. And in order to waylay that experience, we overcommit too quickly. So going slow and seeking to really know somebody authentically before getting too obligated. This works better for people more on the poly end of the spectrum than on the monogamous end, because the monogamy piece is challenging. Monogamous people really have a hard time with any kind of other intimate involvement. So that has to be negotiated and cared for so that it's possible to know somebody well enough. If you don't do that, of course, 2 or 2.5 years down the road, the relationship comes apart and you have to begin again with someone else. It's a lot of time, energy, and resources. And it's one of the reasons why people begin to slow down and be less and less willing to try to connect over time. Insecure and disorganized people, or disorganized people, particularly in the mid to late 30s, to kind of give up and decide not to do it. But it isn't only romantic partnerships or A relationships, it's also B relationships, friendships, close friendships that help you through life. I mean, relationships are really supposed to provide the support for you to go and find meaning in the world, not to be the meaning of the world. And that's one of those insecure and disorganized conceptualizations that somehow the relationship should provide meaning, when actually what you're looking for is somebody to hide out with and not really have to participate much. But here you are in your one wild and precious life, as Mary Oliver would say. What are you going to do with it? And who are you going to get to help you? And who are you going to tell about the things that you've discovered? This is that intimate, authentic relationship. Who can't wait for you to tell them what you found out about the things that matter to you? Which means you have to be willing to tell them. Which means you have to feel safe enough to tell them, right? To feel their interest in you. I think, we start, I did read, this is years ago, but that Disney had 33,000 princess products in their line for little girls, which I thought was fascinating, in the way that we acculturate people. What are you going to do with this one wild and precious life that you have, in terms of your own exploration, in terms of discovering the things that you find meaningful? And then who are you going to share it with is really the question. How are you going to have the support that you need so that you can actually go into the world and discover what you need to know? And how are you going to do it creatively? We often, when we talk about creativity, often we think of artistic expression, something like that. But it doesn't have to be that. And in fact, I would say probably more often it's not that. What is it that really matters to you? What is it you want to do? What is it you want to make happen? I said to somebody, how are you going to poke the world? And she said, it's such a masculine interpretation. I laughed. I thought, oh my God. So culturally conditioned. It's amazing. So the glow happens, only lasts a couple of months. Have you noticed that when somebody really glows, you get to know them a little bit, it begins to go away. It's really just meant to get you over the first few months of negotiating these conflict strategies. How are you going to get your conflict resolution system to integrate with their conflict resolution system so that you can describe the world in such a way that you can negotiate solutions that are actually creative and solve the problem of getting along? When we were in the training with Stan Tacken, one of the examples he used was a couple. He grew up in a working class Brooklyn family, Italian family, and they did the Sunday dinner, lunch, supper. And it was a raucous occasion, lots of people yelling and, you know, big gestures, big expressions. And then they just got up and did the dishes and went home. And the wife grew up as an only child in a waspy Connecticut family who said she recalled her dad raising his voice twice in her 18 years at home. And when she first went to the supper, she was absolutely terrified at the intensity of it. And so we're so conditioned, and you know, the conditioning is that we lug around with us this database of meaning that we assign to everything that we experience. And everybody's database is different, and so we have that wonderful conundrum of the human condition is that we're all so alike and at the same time completely unique. How do you navigate that likeness and that uniqueness in such a way that it's that you're astonished by the people that you're in relationship to, and you feel safe to express yourself spontaneously, completely, without worrying that you'll make a mistake and somehow that will result in your abandonment. As soon as you have that sense that if you make a mistake, you'll be abandoned, you begin to lose the spontaneity and just go into these manufactured expressions, which is that role-based relationship. But you know, at the core of that is that longing to be seen and to be known and to have an effect. You know, the infant calls out to the world completely open, and then the caregiver attunes, empathetically connects, mirrors back to the child what their experience of the child is, so that the child knows that they're being seen, they're being witnessed. And then the caregiver provides care to them, which the child knows as they're able to have an effect on the world. And that's what we want. We want to be seen. We want somebody to know us. And we want to have a sense that we can have an effect on the world, on them. The glow lasts a couple of months, and then there you are, hopefully negotiating, hopefully having floated with the glow over the first few negotiations of relationship. But sometimes we can make a series of bad deals, the glow ends, and there we are. Oh my God, what have I done? Which is why slow is better, I think. Really get to know somebody so that you know whether they can keep the deals that you want to make with them. Really negotiate them, and don't accept something that doesn't feel like a solid win for you, but also don't accept something that doesn't feel like a solid win for the other person, because in the end they won't be able to keep the deal, and then it'll rise up again and you'll have to renegotiate it. And it's the ones that you never find a solution to that will tear apart the relationship. Because my voice is a little hoarse, I was thinking that I would stop there and we would sit a little bit longer. Would you like to do loving kindness practice or Vipassana? Insight. That's metta or Vipassana. IPF, the third choice. Okay, we can do that. You ready? So go ahead and settle in. So how'd that go? Good? We have a few things coming up. Saturday, we're starting a cycle of level 1, so 9 a.m. What else? Calendar is too slow. And then in June, we're going to do 2 half-day retreats on exploration. So I like to talk about them as intermediate and advanced mentalizing. We're going to do a half day on the 21st of June, which is the intermediate mentalizing, and then on the 28th is the advanced mentalizing. I'll talk about primary and secondary exploration on the first day mainly, and on the second day I'll talk about uh, developing primary exploration as an expression of advanced mentalizing, and I'll talk a little bit about my own process of making photography and also writing. I haven't talked really much about my writing, but I do a lot of it. So consider that. We have Kaleidoscope coming up on June 27th. Kaleidoscope is our monthly Sangha gathering. I'm not sure what the topic for that would be. Let's see if I can find it quickly. We are going to talk about how to navigate sex. That should be fun. uh, Focused on consent and sex positivity, monogamy versus polyamory, kink even. It's an interesting outline we have. So that's what's coming up. I offer the teaching freely. But I do hope if you can make a donation, you will. There's a link on the website. It does help support me and also the work Mettagroup is doing. Any amount is appreciated. Of course, if you're not resourced in these challenging times, come practice. We're happy to have you. Thank you. And I think I'm going to bow out a little bit early tonight because of my impending cold. Good to see you. We'll see you soon. Bye.